Hi, everyone. How is everyone doing? Can you hear me okay? Okay,
Yes,
awesome.
thank you.
All right. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. Thanks to everybody here at the Housing Authorities for inviting me to come and share with you. Really appreciate it. So I'm actually really honored to be able to present and share Housing Connector with all of you. My name is Carla Archambault, and I'm the VP of Strategy and Business Development at Housing Connector. I started about a year ago when Skelchim Kelmendi, our executive director, had decided to start to expand outside of Seattle and King County into Pierce County and Tacoma, and now Denver as well. And so I came on board to start to help with that. And I wanted to shout out to Alexis here from Tacoma Housing Authority. So I was new to the housing industry, and as we expanded, I started in May, and July we launched, and we've been learning a lot along the way in Pierce County and Tacoma. But I was able to come back to, I lived in Seattle and then moved back to Tacoma where I grew up. And so I kind of feel like you are all family here in this room with us, or online, I guess I should say. So thank you to Alexis. Thanks to Giram at Seattle Housing Authority. We're working closely with you as well. And I'm sure that Annalise and Pam and the team at King County Housing Authority is out there somewhere as well. I know them as well. So thank you for having us. I just really, really appreciate it. You know, it's been a tough couple of years for all of us, just human beings in general. We all know that, and we talk about that a lot. But for the housing providers that are here, and I know I can't see all of you, but I know you're all out there. You've had a hard time, not only financially trying to figure everything out, but mentally dealing with all that you have has been just a bit crazy. As we talk to our property partners and hear about all that is going on out there, it makes the team at Housing Connector just want to support you even more. Some of you have heard about us, some of you haven't. Maybe this is your first time. But we will also give time at the end of my presentation, which it won't be very long, for questions and answers for you as well. And I know I stand between you and a lunchtime too, so hang in there. It won't be a long time. Appreciate it. So how did we get started? Here's our purpose, our mission, and our vision. But our executive director, Skelchim, you know, the Seattle Housing Authority is near and dear to his heart. He worked there, and while he was working there, he would see people get their vouchers that we're talking about. You know, these vouchers that are out there, and I know we have a lot more of them with the emergency housing vouchers. But he would see people get them in their hands and be really excited to get out there and get housed. And then a while later, their voucher would expire because of barriers that were in the way for them to get housed. And so they would take that excitement from, you know, down to sadness. And so he would watch that happen, and he decided, like, you know what, we all can do something in our life to make a difference. And so what is it that we can do differently? So he met with housing providers like you to learn what was important and what we could do. So in Q4 of 2019, we launched Housing Connector, which is a nonprofit B2B company. So our services are free to you and our service provider partners that we work with. So this is our vision and our mission: to help house people by supporting you, our primary partner, the properties. So this first part of this sentence is clear to you as a housing provider around financial loss, and you have felt that recently. But we also have over 23,000 people in need of a home in the state of Washington. And I'm sure that's higher. That's the number that I could find, but it hasn't been fully updated. But we know that that number is higher. And you guys are doing such a great job at the housing authorities, really trying to get people housed. And so we really want to do that. So these 6 key areas that are mentioned here represent the barriers for people. As I mentioned earlier, when people get that voucher in hand, it doesn't necessarily mean success unless we can help lower those barriers. And you as property owners, providers, are on this call to learn more how you can help. So, so we learned that these were the 6 barriers. So what solution did we come up with? Of course, you, our property partners. We've learned from you the most important things we can do to support you is to help fill your units, make sure that the rent is paid on time, help to not have damage in your units, and really to have safe and healthy communities. Good neighbors are important to all of us, as you know. So we worked with the property partners to come up with a benefits package to support these areas. This approach that you see here takes those biggest challenges facing a landlord today and deploys solutions to address them. All of these are important to you, the housing providers, including the free referrals, the 3 months of guaranteed rent, and of course the $5,000 risk mitigation. And that's on top of the landlord mitigation for Washington State. But over the past couple of years, what we've learned is the customer support piece that we mentioned here for you is really key when challenges do rise. And we both want the same thing, to keep your units full, but also keep residents housed. So we also just act as that single point of contact to our landlords and property partners in case of any lease violations. So this takes the burden away from you to navigate the resources available to you. This is where our community partnerships come in, as we work with the service providers, the case management, to step in and really help support and really triage that situation. So we do our part with free referrals and the financial security that I just mentioned, and we ask for you to negotiate with us the following areas. And this is all negotiable, and we work through that. But looking at waiving a credit score, allowing some past debt, accepting 2 times the income to rent ratio, waiving rental history, accepting up to 2 evictions, working through acceptable criminal history, and we work through that with you outside of the city of Seattle, of course. So how do we do this with properties? So this is where our partnership becomes powerful, because we supply those free referrals on our exclusive search platform embedded within Zillow.com. So you share your units for free, which also is a benefit to our community partners, the case managers, to access for free. They find units in one place and in real time. So it looks just like this. Our portal is right in Zillow, embedded, and is accessed easily in that platform that most of us already know how to use this type of search mechanism. So here's a visual of what our service providers see when they search and find a property that works. They can see what criteria that specific housing provider accepts, what they've negotiated with us. We place that in this listing. And that housing provider, they can actually see, or the service provider can see what the housing provider accepts before they even apply. So here's a little bit more detail. This is what allows the service providers only to see the criteria that you as a housing provider is accepting. So regular public is not going to be able to see that criteria. So if you see this little visual on the left, they will click on that more button, and that will give them access to the accept housing connector. You can see in that visual at the bottom on the right, where it says accepts housing connector. Then they have permission to access our accepts housing connector button, because they've been given that special permission. But then in the middle picture here, it shows that's where we allow them to reach out to our partners with specific verbiage showing that they are with Housing Connector. So you would know as a housing provider that they are with Housing Connector. And then that last visual is just you, the property partner. You then reach out with the next steps to apply, and you go through the normal application process that you have set up. So here's another quick little visual of how we get our property partners started. We basically sign a simple MOU, a memorandum of understanding, with you to form our partnership after we negotiate that criteria with you. Then we refer applicants through our Zillow platform, as you just saw, and you, the property, screen under our Housing Connector criteria that we negotiated. Then the lease is signed through your normal process. You contact us if any issue arises, and we support you. We're here for supporting you along the way for the 2 years of residency. Obviously, you may have 1-year leases, and we look and hope to keep that person there for long term, just like you do. So we stay there for the 2 years and support you through at least the first 2 years. So I have a separate slide for this because, again, we have learned from our over 1,000 properties that our customer support is what sets us apart, and why those that partner with us want to continue to partner with us. We are that, as I mentioned, that single point of contact, and we triage that situation working with the service provider to work with the residents to come to a solution to whatever problem has arisen. And of course, our team is here to support you with that financial support as well. So since we launched, we've shown a little bit of impact here, and I want to just share that with you. So since we launched in Q4 of 2019, we've developed partnerships with over 1,100 properties and 149 nonprofit organizations across Pierce, King County, Seattle, Tacoma, and now in Denver. But we've been able to connect over 2,800 people to housing. And at a closer look, the people housed revealed that around 67% are households of color. And to date, for those that we've housed 2 years ago, we have seen a 72% graduation rate compared to what we have learned. The norm is like 50 to 60% from what we've learned. And this impact in our mind is promising. And what's amazing is that this was done through COVID and the eviction moratorium, of course, as you guys all know. I think it's important to mention, though, that since launching, we have also helped generate over $19 million in revenue for properties through keeping units filled, and connected our partners to millions more in rent relief and helped them navigate the system by partnering with you guys on this call as well. So I don't want you to just hear it from my voice as I work here. So I wanted to add a couple of comments we've received from our property partners, just over time. As we know, we can't sit here and talk about ourselves and try to get you to see the value in what we do, but we really want you to hear it from your peers. And we're just here to make a difference and link arms with you and partner with you. And I've had several conversations since I've been here at Housing Connector with landlords, and one recently was with a small landlord who had listed his house with us early on. He's had somebody housed in his house, and he called us and said, I'm so excited to work with all of you, and I really would love to I have another house that just opened up, and I really want it to be a Housing Connector resident. And that just warmed my heart. It was just a really great conversation, really great guy, and really cares about, keeping people housed. And I thought that I would definitely share that there's a lot of property partners out there saying a lot. We have a lot of really, really great partners. And as you can see, we've housed a lot of people. So with that, the bottom line is we're here to link arms with you, the housing providers, to provide support in all the ways that I mentioned. We all want to get people housed with these housing the vouchers that we've just been talking about, and working with the housing authorities. And we are here to partner alongside to do just that. So we're excited. I actually added a QR code here that you can link right to becoming a connector, and it will send us a note and we will get in contact with you. Or feel free to email us at info@housingconnector.com. You can reach me at carla@housingconnector.com. But thank you so much for having us here today. And we're just really excited to work with you and continue to house people. So thanks again. Now I'll open it up to any questions there might be out there.
Thank you, Carla. We have 2 questions so far. One, how much does this service cost?
Nothing. It's all free.
Nice.
So you probably wonder how we're funded, because we're a nonprofit, as I mentioned, and we're about 70% publicly funded and 30% private funded. So we do have some private organizations that have seen value as well and are investing in us.
How does Housing Connector not violate fair housing laws by creating new rules for them? So how is asking to relax the screening criteria not a violation of fair housing?
Yeah, it's actually what we found working with Fair Housing of Washington and in Denver. And we're also starting to work with HUD on this as well to make it even more official. But what we found is we actually help do better fair housing because we are allowing people who normally would have faced these barriers to lower those barriers for them to entry. And so we have a flyer from the Fair Housing of Washington and the city of Seattle that actually confirms that we better fair housing. So I can always send that out to you if you're interested in it.
Yeah, would you send that to me and we can get that sent out?
You betcha, Alexis, I will do that.
Thank you. So do we have any additional questions from our housing provider partners today for the Housing Connector? Oh, so is it a violation was the question. So is it a fair housing violation? No, the Fair Housing Center of Washington said that it's actually furthering fair housing by helping folks who normally would get screened out of homes into housing. So, and there is documentation that says that, and we will send that out along with the PowerPoint and everybody's contact information when we send the recording out. Let's see, so do we have to change the criteria for Housing Connector tenants? Was another question that we had.
Yeah, so the housing criteria that I mentioned, those 6 different criteria, we would work with you as a landlord to look at which criteria you're comfortable with, but we give suggested criteria that lower the barrier. And then, yes, you would actually work on whatever criteria that you have agreed upon with us. And then that would specifically would be listed in your listing via Zillow and our agreement. So the service providers, as they're working, would see that criteria before they even apply or have their client apply.
Yeah, so they wouldn't send somebody over that doesn't match with your actual screening criteria. So
right.
That takes away. Do we have any additional questions from our housing provider partners or anything else? There's a comment here, Carla. So that takes time away from property listing time. What do you think about that?
What do they mean by that? Let me think about that.
Let's see, Stephanie, are you available? Can you let me see if I can.
Well, but what are they're here, let me look. Is that in the Q&A?
Yeah, it's in the Q&A.
Okay. So if she's talking about that takes time away from property listing time.
I'm assuming, and please, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming like it might be a duplication of their efforts to list it through whatever platforms they're using, and then also through Zillow.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We actually link to whatever feed you use, whatever platform you use, we can link that feed directly into Zillow. So you do not, it will be seen on Zillow, but we syndicate that feed into Zillow. So you do not have to list it separately.
Oh, it looks like I might have been wrong. It takes time to go to an agreement. So I'm going to assume here again, it might be taking time to get into agreement with the Housing Connector about relaxing the screening criteria. Is that right?
Yeah, what we do it once. So really just take the time that we would chat with you and talk through that. And then we do a quick onboarding. It wouldn't take a lot of time. We would make it as painless as possible. It's a really simple document just to protect both sides. So it is really simple. But yeah, I definitely would be willing to chat with you, Stephanie, if you want to reach out.
And one thing that's great is you can always, get into an agreement with the housing connector before you have an available unit. So you don't have to only go into an agreement or work with the housing connector if you have available units, but they can always sign you on as a property partner before you even have any available units, because we all know that the vacancy rate's pretty low right now.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point, Alexis. And we have several partners that will, have several properties and not thinking that they might open up, but we get them all set up in our system. And as soon as you have something that comes live, it's pretty easy to get it on there if we have you all set up in our system.